Hi, it's Christy of So to Speak, and welcome back to the Closet series. We are in the middle of a holiday season that, although may look and feel very different than those of the past or the future, there are a few things that stay the same. So yes, chances are you're going to be eating a bunch of food and drinking a bunch of drinks that aren't going to necessarily make you feel fantastic. And the cold weather is setting in, so we hunch up a little bit more, and we're also over the computer, so we're hunched over. So fortunately for you, we are going to be focused on the power of Pilates today. If you are familiar with Pilates, you're going to totally love this conversation. And if you're new to it, I think it's really going to give you just a different vantage point, that it goes way beyond the Pilates body, which is that long, lean, beautiful body. That's a great benefit, but it goes way beyond that. There's a lot of internal strength and power that happens as well. And that it's not just for the suburban mom, it's for anybody. I've been practicing Pilates for over 20 years, and it's one exercise that I just go back to over and over. The style of it always comes through. I just feel stronger, I feel more open, I feel less in pain, like that lower back pain that you get from being on the computer or hunched over, totally goes away. And so we have two experts within the field of Pilates, Val Lopata, who is the owner of Bodywise Pilates right here in upstate New York, in New Hartford, New York. And we also have joining us Sydney Sifers, who is the owner of the Body Lab based in Burlington, Vermont. And Sydney and Val sit down to talk all things Pilates, and Val even shares a short and sweet and effective 5-minute exercise that you can do whenever you're feeling the need. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy our conversation. I want to know what got you both into Pilates, like how you were introduced to Pilates and why you are so passionate about it. Like what made you both, you're both business owners, you both, Sydney, you're based in Burlington, and Val, you're in New Hartford, you're in upstate. But like what really made you get so passionate about it, how you got introduced to it, that you wanted to share it with everybody? And we'll have Val go first, and then Sydney, you can jump on.
Sure. So I came into it with a background in dance, professional ballet. And throughout my dance years, various people had encouraged us young dancers to learn a little bit about Pilates. And I didn't really get it, and I wasn't sure that it was of value at that point. I wanted to move. I wanted to be less disciplined. And fast forward to the end of my career, when I stopped dancing, I was looking for something that satisfied that physicality for me. I had danced from early on and didn't really know life without moving, but never realized how important that level of moving my body was for me being me. So when I first experienced Pilates in a one-on-one setting, I had been not dancing. I retired from dance at like the ripe old age of 22. And I was kind of blown away. I just loved how it made my body feel. It was the closest thing that I could find to that full body connection that I had with dance. And as a young dancer, and then, moving up into my 20s, I felt like confidence in my body that I could do so much. I could run, I could jump, I could climb a fence, I could hang, it never really got in the way for me. And I knew when I left dance behind that I wanted to continue to have that confidence in my body. So the more I learned about it, the more I needed to learn about it. And it was like I couldn't stay away. And I just was like, I need to learn how to teach this. It's perfect for me.
Yeah, like what's staying in my mind is how you were saying how it gave you so much confidence, and you could run, you could jump, you could climb a fence, which I'm being so stereotypical right now, but it's making me think of like just being more active and almost tomboyish in a way that we don't associate with Pilates. Like Pilates is there are stigmas with every form of exercise to a degree. And I just feel like that's so destigmatized what it is. Like can before we shift over to Sydney, can you or Sydney too, chime in? Like what are some So if that's like a stigma of Pilates, kind of like it's suburban moms and it's just for your physique, but Val, you were just saying like it gave you so much more ease of movement. And I was sensing when you were like this, like expansion, like it's just all included in there. Like, do you have anything to add on to that, just that observation?
I guess I would just say it's that confidence that like your body and you are one. You're not fighting each other, you know, not when you're out in the real world. Maybe in the studio, there's a little bit of that. And I think we kind of we like that chewiness about it. But yeah, like we're a team, you know, and I gotta take care of my team, right? I gotta like maintain it. I gotta stimulate it. I gotta soothe it. I gotta do all those things so that my team is with me. So when I want to take off and run or swing my leg up because I want to get on the fence, it's there for me. And I'm not like, whoa, I've never done that before, you know?
Absolutely. I love it. Sydney.
That's my thought. I love to hear Sydney comes from a different perspective, also super valuable. So I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So I think in terms of how I got into Pilates, I danced as like a child, but never like professional like Val, but I always did movement. I was always kind of doing all the exercise kind of fads. I did like Les Mills, I did kickboxing, I was at the gym, I did CrossFit for a little bit. I kind of touched on everything. And then in 2010, I took my first ballet bar class, like, you know, bar, and I just loved it. I loved the studio that I was at. It was in Texas. I loved the trainer, the studio owner. I just kind of fell in love with this space. And that really for me was my jumping off point. After we moved from Texas, and I was like, I just knew I needed to kind of keep bar in my life. The place that we had moved to next didn't have a bar studio. So I kind of was like, okay, like I can do this. So I went and did the training, and from there, you know, it just sort of took off. The trainer who I did the bar training with, she is a certified Pilates instructor through BASI. Is that how you say it, Val?
Yeah.
BASI, yeah. And so she had you know, a lot of Pilates references. So I just kind of had that in the back of my mind that, you know, Pilates could be sort of the next step after bar. So really that's how I got into it. I did my first mat course in 2015, and then I've just been taking ever since.
And what made you guys, why Pilates?
You know, it's like, I did so many different kinds of workouts. It's the one thing that like felt right. I mean, it felt good. I left feeling like this sort of empowerment feeling. A lot of those other workouts left me feeling depleted in a way. I left feeling energized. And it just, I mean, it's hard to put into words, but it's just this sort of whole body, it's like a natural high. You feel just great doing it, and you feel even better leaving.
Well, you guys are so speaking complimentary to each other. I love, Val, how you're saying how like we're a team. I love that idea of thinking about your body. I mean, you hear like my body's a temple, and for some people that works, and some people are not even thinking about their body, right? And just looking at it like a team, I just love the idea of, I'm really in the whole mindset of, so Rick Hansen, he's into neuroscience, he's into Buddhism, and he just talks about mindfulness. But one thing that he talked about in his book, Resiliency, or Resilient, I think it's called, is within the chapter about compassion, he's like, I'm on my own side. Like, it's such a way to have self-compassion. And when you say team, it's like, everything's inside first, right? It's like the inside out. And so you're saying team, and then we go over to Sydney, and Cindy's talking about that holistic, that empowerment, the sense of being a natural high and not feeling depleted. Like, and for some people, you know, CrossFit, they feel super energized and they get that same thing. And this isn't like a one versus the other at all. It's like, however you can get your body moving, where you are listening to your body and saying, oh, I'm feeling that sense of alignment and that sense of team. run with it. Like overall, this is a focus on Pilates, but it's really like get your bodies moving.
Yeah. And I often say, like, you know, it's movement's like it's like a menu at a great restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Some days you're in the mood for a salad, and some days you're in the mood for a steak, and you know, so maybe it's soup. But you know that there are components that you always need. There are basic minerals and you know, vegetables, like, you know, there are things that you need. That's Pilates.
Val, going off of what you're saying about it being like a menu, so is Pilates for everybody? Can anybody do it? And if it is, how and why, and how can they get started?
So I completely believe that Pilates is for everybody and everybody. And it's really important to me, and has been since the beginning, that the people that I work with understand that the Pilates system was designed for functionality in your body. It was designed for balance and optimum movement. And actually, Joseph Pilates used to say complete coordination of mind, body, and spirit. And for him, it was your mind should be fully engaged in what you are doing in order for your body to function optimally and for your spirit to function optimally. And I love that he acknowledges those three things. And this is back in the early 1900s.
I think like just comparing Pilates to maybe another form of fitness on the menu or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, Pilates, like you're meant to think about movement. You're not really supposed to go into it mindless. I know sometimes people like to kind of work out, zone out, have that sort of mindless feel, but I think it's mind and body connection. It's working the mind as much as you're working the body.
Yeah, that's completely true. And I think that in itself is what almost gives you, as strange as it sounds, a break in your mind. So your mind is not turned off in the way that maybe you seek to achieve with a meditation, but it is your direction is your thoughts and your mind are channeled into a direction that you are fully engaged in something, but it's not those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your kid's sports schedule. It's not your, you know, and when your mind drifts to those things, there's always another cue or another correction to bring you back. Mm-hmm. And so that when you have a great instructor who's kind of poking you and prodding you to, you know, pay attention to these different things, to coordinate all of these movements, it keeps bringing you back. And then at the end of your workout, there's that sense of you've had a mental break, even though you haven't. Your brain's been engaged.
I totally can attest to that as being Pilates. What would I call myself? Like just a student, I guess.
A practitioner, right?
Practitioner. Had the pleasure of working with both of you guys independently, individually, and you both know that I love Mari Windsor, who just passed away, I think, within the last year or two. For the last 20 years, I've been doing, and I still do, with Mari Windsor. I find it online, and I do Mari Windsor Pilates. But I totally agree with you. I feel like it's this sense of it's like you're practicing being more present without realizing it. Like you're going to Pilates, but one of the advantages, because there's tons of advantages to having an instructor, right? Alignment and everything. You can go into that, but you're not going to Pilates necessarily to be more present. It's a byproduct of it. So then what I've noticed is like I naturally find myself more present the more that I'm doing Pilates, because you're present in Pilates. Like you're just naturally in that alignment. And when you do have that instructor to kind of bring you back, it's the same type or parallel to if you are someone who meditates, like meditating for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and you're often told like, just tell yourself like thinking, and then just come back. So you're doing that to yourself through meditation. Whereas when you're going to an instructor of Pilates, they're the one doing that. They're just helping you kind of come back. And there's almost like a natural invitation to be present, because you guys aren't sitting there. Your style is not very ruler based, right? Like, Christy, come on. But just there's like an ease and a nudge into just, it is all connected. So stay with this, and helps you just be in that space when you leave, where you do feel a relief. You do feel like, when Sydney was saying, like that natural high, without even realizing it was happening It's like after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to kind of jump in here because when exactly what you were saying, Christy, about being brought back and being brought back into your body, for me, and I think for a lot of my clients, and I know Sydney can probably agree, this is what builds a relationship between what I would say you and your body. And when I say team, it's like you have this relationship, and I think this is what keeps people, certainly me, and I can speak for many of my clients, coming back to Pilates. For me, this is 20 some odd years, and you know, 20 some odd years that it's been going on, and I'm never bored with it. And it is very repetitive. It's a strangely repetitive technique, but you build this relationship because you keep coming back to like, oh, that's where my hips are today. That's where my scoop is today. That's how, you know, how much of a challenge it is to stay connected to my shoulders and to keep that. I know my body likes to lean to the right. So it's like a check-in. You really get to check in and then develop this rapport. And I always say, like, some days you're going to feel great.
Yeah.
Some days it's going to feel like, you know, you're herding cats. You're just, all these different parts of your body are doing their own thing. But that's what builds a relationship, right? It's not always good. It's not always bad. It's a back and forth, but also you build trust and you build this, like, I know what I've got here. I know what I can ask of it.
Some really good body awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A much more succinct way to say it.
we have the word and now we have the definition just backwards. So it was like a little bit of a jeopardy.
Yeah.
Works. But I love that. And I love the idea of, like, when you're talking about your hip, right? I have hip issues, and it's such a proactive way to not have to go, oh, my sciatica's horrible. So now I'm like, you're just by maintaining, because I'm hearing maintaining too. So there's the body awareness, you're maintaining. It's different every day because your body's different every day, even if subtly. Your mind's totally different every day. We all know that. And so when you show up, like, you might be doing the same, you might be doing the 100, or that's the only one that's coming to my mind right now. But like, you know, you might be doing the roll up, but it's different. And then you're going to be building a natural body awareness, which is strengthening. So even off the mat, can we just kind of segue to like the internal practices that you're strengthening through Pilates, like how that can transfer in off the mat?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like pretty much everything in Pilates is core based, right? Everything comes from our powerhouse, and then our limbs move separately. And like, for me at least, you know, I notice I sit taller, I stand taller. When I'm sitting, I'm not, except for now, not necessarily slumping, but I mean, I do notice even when I'm standing in my kitchen, I'm kind of pulling my abs in and up. So I think it just, you know, translates out of the studio into your everyday life.
And back pain, like I'm hearing back pain too. Like, how many of us are sitting at it? Sorry to interrupt, Val.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It just made me think of that. Like, the more Pilates I do, it's just connected. And you speak to this because you guys are the experts here. But I notice as a practitioner, which sounds so much fancier than student, Val. So thank you. I'm running with that. I'm a Pilates practitioner. Just like it's a no-brainer, but I think it's worth reminding. We are all glued to so whether you have a standing desk, maybe you do, maybe you remind yourself to stand up when you're at the, you know, on the computer or Zoom or homeschooling your kids, but we're all hunched. We're just like all hunchbacks of Notre Dame in the making. And it's such a wonderful reminder to just open, to expand. And then and you're making more room. So I am going there. So like your heart has more room, which I think is so friggin' imperative right now, that we all become more heart-centered. But also that your core, like you were saying, Sydney, my lower back literally feels relief the more I do Pilates, because I sense myself sitting up more. So my lower back doesn't have as much pain, which in turn, then my hips don't have as much pain. And it's also connected. So
low back. I mean, Val, I don't know about for you, but I mean, in the short time that I've been having the studio, that's been the biggest feedback I've gotten from people, that their low back pain has essentially just disappeared. So, I mean, it's so tied.
Yeah. And I think that so often, I have so many thoughts to talk about.
Go for it.
So often when we think about working out, whatever it is, we're thinking about, like you said, Sydney, things that are farther away from our center. right? And with Pilates, we really go right in. We go right for the center right away. That's the first thing that we're identifying and then trying to maintain throughout. So if you're moving your arm, you can just plunk your arm out there. And let's say you're just doing some bicep curls. You can do that, or you can connect your arm into your center. You can feel its connection to your back. You can feel the back's connection to your center. You can feel a little resistance, maybe holding it up. And then you can do your bicep curl. Now we're affecting so many things and really strengthening, you know, your powerhouse or your core, whatever you want to call it. And that's one of the things that makes Pilates so efficient. And who doesn't love something efficient these days?
Right. So efficient.
Yeah. And then getting back to what you were saying, Christy, I think that you were talking about being on Zoom and the hunch and I think of it sometimes with the cold weather.
Totally.
I call it hunching season, right? We're cold, or the shoulders are coming up, whatever. I also think that there's a huge component of body language that we miss. Actually, I think we pick up on it quite a bit, but we don't always think about it. And I know when I enter a room and I'm feeling a little imposter syndrome or whatever it is, a little insecure, a little uncomfortable, everything goes in, right? Everything goes in, it goes down. Even if it's just a little. And I feel like when you have that base and when you have that foundation of Pilates, because you are so working both tangibly and literally close to your center, and theoretically you're working on what's closest to your center first, it allows you to be able to be more upright, to be more open, and to know that you're still you're still there, you're still in there. And this is better for your posture. This is better for your digestion. This is better for your respiratory system. It's better for your circulatory system. It's better for your reproductive system. It's better for your skeletal system, the central nervous system. And like everything is better when we stand taller, right?
Are you familiar with Amy Cuddy Power Poses?
No.
Oh, you both have to. So I want to say her TED Talk came out years ago. I mean, I'm going to say 5 years ago. It probably is more than that. And everything you're saying is going to her power poses. So I'm going to very briefly talk about it because it's so, I feel like you both can connect it somehow to your clients, and whoever's watching, it's worth watching her TED Talk. So, the two things you were saying, so to go back a little bit further, you were talking about the bicep and how if you pay attention, so right away you're working, enhancing your presence and your mindfulness, your body awareness, your interconnectedness, that everything is interconnected, that all parts are, you know, parts of the whole, which is huge. So that there's that, which is super important. And then you're actually paying more attention, whether you realize it or not, to other parts of your body that may be weaker or maybe atrophying, or you may not be paying attention to, and like, oh, I didn't even think of it like that. And you have a newfound appreciation for your body and what it does for you. So I think that's huge. In addition, you were talking about expanding. And so Amy Cuddy, I'm trying to think of how to say this the most succinctly. She did a TED Talk. It was it's like one of the top 10 TED Talks out there about body language. And it's called Power Poses. And she had participants each do this, like you were saying, the hunching before a job interview, because it's like one of the biggest stressors, right? She had them like this for 2 minutes, hunched, shoulders in, and she connects it to how like animals do the same thing, like when they're scared, versus like cobras come out and apes come out, and totally, right? And so she had them like this for 2 minutes, and then she had 2 minutes with either Wonder Woman or arms up. And then they went and answered questions as a job interview candidate. 2 minutes, she takes saliva swabs from each of these people. The ones who are like this, their testosterone is up, their cortisol, which is the stress hormones, down. These, cortisol super high, testosterone super low. And so it's research backed. It's like, it's scientifically proven that the more that you're able to expand, starting with the core, in this case with Pilates, you're going to enhance that sense of inner confidence, which, Sydney, going back to what you were talking about, that natural high, it's different than, and I'm saying this from a runner too, it's different than the runner's high. The runner's high is like really ecstatic. It's like a deeper internal high. There's like a strength with it. And so I feel like that just is such a natural correlation between Amy Cuddy's work and what you were just talking about.
I'm glad you brought her up. I'm not familiar with her at all, and I'd like to check that out.
Yeah, I'll connect her TED Talk to our talk so that people can check it out, because, and I feel like that's something that having that science backing for both of you to be able to talk to clients who care or even to promote it. I mean, not for nothing, if you just promoted that we're in this weather, whatever you just called it, like the hunch weather, and that was like your Instagram, like, do you want to be a hunch or do you want to be Wonder Woman? You're going to get people to come to you. Like,
I'm doing that, guys.
You could do the Hunchback of Notre Dame next to Wonder Woman and be like, who do you want to be this winter? Like, so the Pilates body is a real thing, right? I don't even want to say for better or for worse. It just is. One of the byproducts when I do Pilates, it is one of the only times, because I'm like Sydney when she said she's tried a bunch of different stuff. I've never done CrossFit, but I've done a bunch of different exercises like Pilates, yoga, Tracy Anderson method, running, walking, hiking, boxing. And Pilates is the only exercise that people will say to me something complimentary, like, oh my gosh, your arms look so fit, or you're standing tall, like literally, like you look taller or whatever. Like it's the only exercise that people make comments about. And it's a great benefit. I do feel leaner. I do like the feeling. I personally love the feeling of stretching. It's like there's a major release of stress and there's more room. And at the same time, I just want to give you guys the opportunity to talk about the fact that wonderful, we all want to look good, but that's not it. And there seems to be talk on social media about the Pilates body. When Val, you had said before, when we were corresponding before this, about it really being for optimal function. So I just want to give you a chance both to speak to that.
Yeah, I think, Pilates was not designed for women, first of all. I think that's interesting. No, Pilates was designed for boxers.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yep. So Joseph Pilates was interested in training boxers, to be totally honest. And before he came to the United States, right? Before he came to the United States from Germany, he actually did spend some time training a German police force, which is where our Pilates stance comes from, our term Pilates stance, which you might know is like a heels together, toes apart position. He took that German police force and they were standing with their feet together parallel. And he was like, this is absurd. This is a much more stable base and more anatomically stable, comfortable, I guess, as opposed to standing parallel. So that's where that stance comes from. But he was really interested in strength and balance and, as I said, optimum function of the body. And then what happened was he shared, when he came to New York, he had a gym or a studio in a building that also was home to the New York City Ballet and George Balanchine. So there was this natural cross-pollination with these dancers, and they basically discovered it and thought, well, this is fantastic. We need this. And then, that I want to say they sort of took it and ran with it. But Joe still carried on teaching normal pedestrian people. In fact, I understand that he really didn't care for teaching the dancers as much as he enjoyed teaching regular everyday people. But I think that's important to note, because somehow we've gotten to this. So I feel that in some ways, the message on social media is like, we do this so we look good, and everybody wants to look good. There's nothing wrong with that. But as you mentioned before, there are so many byproducts of Pilates, and it is my intention to share the message that looking good is secondary to functioning good and feeling good. And that was, I believe, Joe Pilates' message as well.
And which is also why all three of us not you guys really diving in and creating businesses of it, but why I stayed with it for so long. That's where the sustainability comes from, I feel like, is because sure, you can look good, but if you feel like crap while you look good on the outside, you're not going to, it's not sustainable.
Right.
So I'm hearing like such sustainability.
An addictive element to it, and that might sound bad, but I was talking actually with one of my instructors about this, and she had said it's almost like you get these little rewards when you're doing Pilates, and it's a little reward in the sense of like, wow, it used to be really hard for me to stretch my leg in this position, and now it feels a little easier, and it's like this little micro reward.
Yes.
You keep those over years, right? More things become available to you, and then you're able to do more. And that is, and I'm sure if someone were to study it, there's all sorts of, you know, serotonin and different little hits that we get when we're able to achieve these little things, dopamine, all of that, right? So I think that's what gives it that staying power.
No, I fully agree with Val. I think what makes Pilates, what's made it last this long is that there's an option for everybody, like everybody, you know, like, you know, an exercise might not necessarily work for some person, but there's always another way and another, you know, not even a modification, just another way to go about it. So I really believe it's for anybody. And at least I know where I'm at right now, we have mostly women, some men, trying to get more men, but of all shapes and sizes. And I think that's what makes it such a special place. You know, I want people to come in and not have this sort of intimidating, you know, feel to it that, you know, the stigma of Pilates does carry in a sense. You know, I think now more than ever, you know, we're trying to work to get away from that stigma.
Yeah. And to chime in, to add on to what you're saying, an offshoot from it, Sydney, is to work together, right? Yeah. So the more that we can find ways that allows us to work together internally, going back to what Val was saying about our body being a team, then we feel better and our stress is down, and then we are more likely to show up for other people. And so yes, whatever exercise helps you get there, great. But since you're with us right now, chances are it's Pilates, or you're wanting to learn more about Pilates. So like Pilates does have such a holistic way to do that. And Val, speaking to what you were saying about it may not be good to say addictive, like if there's anything that COVID has done, it has brought up the vices in everybody. So if we could shift our vice to be a healthy addiction, like let's run with it. And if it's Pilates, awesome.
Something that pops into my head is that there is a network of women. This is a female industry, female-based industry, and there is a sense of women helping women in this community that is really important to me. And for instance, the first studio that I visited was owned and run by a woman. And when I fell in love with Pilates, it was she that explained to me that one of the elders, or the first generation Pilates instructors that she had learned from, was a woman named Romana Krzyzanowska. And she, in addition to her daughter, and in addition to her daughter, had carried on this lineage of Joe Pilates' work. And she was able to connect me with them. And then I was able to come back and open a studio and affect other women who have been with me and then moved on and opened their own studios. And I think that that's a really, I mean, it honestly gives me goosebumps just talking about it, because I think that's a really important aspect of it. And it doesn't mean that it has to be women, it could be men as well. But in my experience, that's what it has been. And it allowed for me to arrange my life in a way that I was able to spend a maximum amount of time with my kids, which was really important to me, while raising them, while building a business. So I feel like there are so many levels to this work and so many boxes that it checks for me that I guess I just wanted to say that.
The other thing I think is really cool is that in addition to all of that, just connecting to what you were originally saying about like being able to move your leg, and you were able to maximize your time with your kids by being present with them, but also physically keep up with them. Like, we all know that it's taxing having young kids, and as our kids get older, the challenges change. And so it really is inside out work. And it's just, it's so important. And then when you really believe in it, then you're able to attract people. Like, just to connect the dots for people who are unaware, is that Sydney was in town in upstate New York because her husband is a hockey player. And so he was playing for the Comets, and now they're based in Burlington. But while you were here, you were with Val, and like it, and so it connected you guys. So you were drawing people in who have similar values and perspectives on Pilates too, which then in turn was somehow affecting Sydney, which Sydney you can speak to open up the Body Lab in Burlington. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much there.
I mean, without Val, and she knows how I feel about her, but I wouldn't be where I am now without Val. She just helped me on such a, not only a professional level, but a personal level, just giving me confidence. And it's a scary place being a teacher, like in front of people, and also this sort of imposter syndrome. You know, what gives me the right to be leading this class, you know, like, so I've dealt with that a little bit. But Val's studio gave me confidence that I couldn't have ever, I mean, I can't even barely put into words. So Val knows how I feel about her.
Thanks. But I do feel like it's a matter of, my instructor did that for me.
Yes.
And now I'm trying to
pay it forward. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important too in this industry, in any industry, to support one another, right? We learn so much from each other, and we all have so much to give and so much to learn and so much to share.
I guess I just want to say one thing about just what we were just talking about, just like helping women out. I feel like that I found, like, I feel like this industry is really good about that. Like, sort of having a mentor. I feel personally, I feel very supported in the Pilates world. So yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Huge to know, for sure.
And excited to be able to pass it on to the people who you are working with and inspiring.
So we often hear how COVID has done stuff to us, like what it's done to us to make life so much more challenging and stressful and overwhelming. And so I'm wondering if you each can share one thing that COVID has done for you.
Yeah. COVID did a couple things for us. Like, it gave us a lot of really good family time. I'm sure you've heard that. I was not working and Jamie wasn't working, so the four of us were home. And it wasn't bad. It was good. Yeah, we did everything together. We did a lot of homeschooling. So I think family-wise, like, it definitely brought us together. On a professional level, I was able to really kind of work on the studio opening. I was supposed to open basically like a week before COVID hit. And I'm thankful that I didn't actually open, but I was able to do my test out during COVID, really study for my exam, time that I just probably wouldn't have been able to have before. So yeah, COVID was good in some ways.
Still uncovering some of the hidden gems that I've been looking for during COVID. Yeah, definitely a scary time. So just prior to COVID, I had sort of expanded my business in a really big way, sort of took a leap that I had been wanting to take for a long time. And when I realized I had to shut my studio down, it was a scary, scary time. But kind of going back and reflecting on some of what we talked about earlier and what you mentioned, Sydney, I have been so supported in this industry by other women. And I have some wonderful mentors within the Pilates community, one of which is Alicia Ungaro, who operates Real Pilates in New York City. And she was right on top of it. And she had prepped a lot of us studio owners that work closely with her that we would carry on our businesses. We would immediately shift to teaching on Zoom. And we did. We didn't lose a day. You know, the day everything closed, we were Zooming the next day. And that was a gem to realize that I could find different ways to operate. I could be flexible and still do what I knew how to do, but in a completely new way. And of course, the time with family, nobody can complain about that. And I think the stripping down of all that, you know, what's really important here, you know, for me, my youngest child was in his senior year of high school. So to be able to have that extra time together where he really wasn't allowed to hang out with friends and, you know, do all these things, it was really spectacular.
For you.
For me, yeah. I can't speak for him. Yeah. But also I would be kind of similar probably to you, Christy. I wasn't in a closet, but I was in my older son's former bedroom and I was teaching my clients on Zoom, and, you know, my son would be across the hall in his room listening, and he was like, wow, I've never heard you, you know, so commanding with your voice, and this is what you do all day. And it almost gave him a chance to a little bit be a fly on the wall of what I do.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah, that was like an unintended sort of kind of perk, that he has a sense of me meeting with each client and, you know, adjusting to where they are, or, you know, that sort of stringing your day together and the different levels of energy that you encounter and how you try to match that and move forward together. I think there's a lot of really good stuff that COVID has brought us, in addition to the things that we're not so happy about.
And I feel like the things that we're not happy about are so on top that it's important to kind of pull them to the side. It's not that it's not Pollyanna. It's not that you're being so positive and keeping everything else underneath that's like kind of bubbling up. It's just like, where out of all the things that you can control and all the things you cannot control, like, let's focus on, I should say it flip. Out of all the things you cannot control, you get to choose where to shift your focus. And so by focusing more on what it's done for you, you're naturally building that more, right? And so I just feel like it's important for us to remind ourselves, especially going into the holiday season, especially going into the longer winters and the colder season where we can feel really isolated and really overwhelmed, to know that we all are interconnected, and we all may not situationally be going through this the same way, because we're all at different, but emotionally we are. And so I want to bring it home more that you both were just speaking about the support that you guys were getting, and if Pilates or not, you know, even beyond Pilates, just to make sure that like support stays at the forefront of everybody's thoughts when they're watching this, and no matter what field you're in or where you're at, like asking for help, reaching out to people, saying that you're lonely. I've definitely said that to a few friends very humbly, and the rewards were huge. So I just think heading into the holiday season, let's just be there for each other.
Yeah.
You know? All right. So when the people that are watching want to learn more about you guys and how they can reach out to you, where can they go?
So you can find out more about Bodywise at my website, which is bodywisepurepulates.com. There, if you click on the schedule with us tab, you can view the list of classes that are available. Right now, the classes and the one-on-one sessions are both in person and available on Zoom. Not all of them, not all the classes. So there are certain ones that are on Zoom and they're listed on that list, and there are certain ones that are in person. And as far as one-on-one sessions or duet sessions, those are by appointment. So if you want to come into the studio for that, we're definitely doing that now. If you would like to have a one-on-one private session via Zoom, we offer that as well. But yeah, you can find me at bodywisepurepulates.com.
Beautiful.
My studio is called the Body Lab. We're located in Burlington, Vermont. Our website is thebodylabvt.com. On there, you'll find our schedule. group classes. Right now we're doing mostly group classes. We are available for one-on-one sessions or duets as well. Also, you can find me on Instagram, the BodylabVT, where if you go under IGTVs, there's a lot of saved workouts on there that you can just do from your home with anything household products you have. You don't need any equipment. It's all there. So check it out.
They're wonderful.
Yeah, they are, because I did one or two of them early on, and they're hard, like 10 minutes in, but good hard. I'll say
Yeah,
it like
good
that.
hard. And some are short. I think I just posted like a 5-minute kind of energize your day. So there's all different lengths of them.
I love that. And what a great segue. So Val, do you want to give us, to carry us home, a 5-minute desk exercise that we all can do?
Absolutely.
Yay.
I'll try to squish it into 5 minutes.
Okay, do the best you can. I just put my pen down so I could be fully with you.
Okay, so I think when you're spending a lot of time on the computer, it's important to give your body a little bit of attention. Sometimes 5 minutes is all it takes, but you're certainly welcome to add more repetitions of this, or go through it from beginning to end and then back from end to beginning again if you want to stretch it out a little bit longer. But the first thing I suggest you do is sit, push your chair back a little bit and sit close to the edge of your chair. So you can feel your sit bones pressing down. And then if you relax your body and go into like what you might be your normal Zoom posture, I'm gonna sit like this, right? My belly's kind of hanging out, my shoulders are kind of rounded, my chin is kind of jutted up, right? So I often give people this exercise. Your spine is a high rise that breathes. So I want you to feel your abdominals draw inward and upward, and then stack the bones of your spine like you're building a high rise, you're building a tower. You're still feeling those low abdominals draw into your spine and up, and then you can just rest your arms in your lap. Now, if you squeeze your glutes, that's the foundation of your building, right? That goes down into the earth. So press your feet down between the legs pressing down and the seat squeezing, that's your foundation. You've got those abdominals in and up, and this high rise that you've just built, it breathes. So take a big inhale, expand your rib cage, and take a big exhale. And then we're just gonna start to nod the head a little up and down. Just being mindful of the range that you're working in, so it's all within your control. You're still squeezing your seat and drawing your abdominals inward and upward, pressing your feet into the floor. And then we'll bring the head back to center, and we'll just tip the head ear to shoulder. And other side, ear to shoulder. And again, ear to shoulder. And ear to shoulder. And then we're moving on down for the shoulders. So we're gonna circle those shoulders from back to front, and back to front, back to front, and back to front. Quick little check-in. Are you still pulling your abdominals in and up? Remember talking about starting from the center and working outward? Yeah, and it's cumulative, right? We build on that, but this is always the most primary thing. Now we're reversing those shoulder circles, so front to back. Front to back, keep breathing. Front to back. Front to back. Good. Now grab the sides of your chair, and then we're going to bring the right arm up by the ear. You can take the arm close to the ear. Lift up through your abdominals, and then stretch your body over. And when we go over, we're not necessarily going down, right? I don't want you to collapse on that side. I want you to go up and over. Press that opposite hip. So if it's your right arm up, it's your right hip that you're pressing down, and both heels into the floor, and then come right back up to center. Switch that. Left arm goes up. Big inhale. And then reach up and over. If it's your left arm up, it's your left hip and heel that are pressing extra down into the floor. And then you can come back up. Yeah. Now we're gonna move on down into our abdominals, right? So we did some head, neck, and shoulders. We did some ribs and waist. Now into these low abs. So I'm gonna say put your hands lightly on your low abdominals and just let them out for a minute. Now pull them in. Again, out. And pull in. One more, out, and pull in. When we're doing Pilates, we're constantly pulling in, inward and up. Now, without shifting your weight, without changing anything, lift your right heel up off the floor, press down through your left, and hold. You feel how much work that is? And then set it down. Other foot comes up and set it down. Let's go a little bit further. You're picking up the heel and then lifting your knee. Just a little, the lowest you can lift it and still leave the floor. And then set it down. All the while we're keeping connected here. We lift the heel of the other leg. We lift the leg just a hair off the floor. Wow, it's a lot of work. And then set it back down. Beautiful. Now bring your heels in a little closer underneath you. If you're in a swivel or a rolling chair, be cautious. We're going to go into a couple sit to stand. So we stand right up and then we sit back down. And again, stand right up, sit back down. 2 more, stand right up, sit back down. And this time stand right up. Good. So we're moving on down. We did glutes, we did quads. Now we're going to turn sideways and take a little lunge. I'm just going to adjust my camera down. And you're going to take a nice lunge. So we're getting into the calves, right? The calves are so important. So when you're in this position, you can reach the arms forward and lift your bottom heel and then press it down. Lift it up and press it down. You're still pulling those abdominals in, right? We don't want to let them hang out. Pull them in, lift up and press down. And then we turn to the side and we go to the other side. Bend the front knee, take a nice lunge, pull the abdominals in, and we lift the heel up and press it down. Lift it up, press it down. Lift it up, press it down. Come right back to the center and then bring your feet together. Now we're upright. I'm going to move my chair back. I want you to see my feet. And from here, we're going into ankles and toes. Super important. So we bend the knees and stretch. Bend and stretch. And one more, bend and stretch. Now imagine you're holding your credit card between your heels. You're going to bend your knees, hold on to that credit card and lift your heels. If you need to hold on to your desk for balance, go right ahead. Otherwise, you can just reach your arms out to the sides. Then you're straightening your legs and lowering your heels. Bend your knees, lift your heels, straighten your legs, don't drop that credit card, and lower down. One more, bend your knees, lift your heels, straighten your legs, lower your heels, and we reverse it, lift your heels, bend your knees, lower heels, stretch your legs, lift, still pulling those abdominals in, and lower, and stretch. The last one right here, up, bend, lower, and straighten. Yeah, that should be about 5 minutes. If you want more, you can.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, first is I just did this in a closet, so you don't have to worry about space. It is there built in for this because I didn't know if I'd be able to do all of them, and I was without any issue really. And again, just that small snippet, feel more space, reminding myself to breathe, reminding myself to pay attention to the body awareness, just bringing home all the things you guys just said in 5 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be a 45-minute Pilates class. If you did this one exercise 5 minutes 3 times throughout the day, for like every other day, even if you can't commit to it every day right away, just to even check in and see how you feel. Like just from that, I feel like, ooh.
Yeah, and if you're thinking of it like, well, I can't remember all those things, just think of it like top to bottom.
Yeah.
Starting at the top, you're moving on down.
Yep.
And we're hitting all the parts, right?
I love it. Thank you so much, Val.
Absolutely.
Ladies, thank you so much. This was so much fun. And it was so, especially, even though like I said, have been practicing Pilates for 20 years, literally, I just learned so much from you guys. And it really brought home just the holistic side to it. I love the whole idea of the internal support for yourself, the external support that you get from other people. And I wish you all a fabulous holiday.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.